Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. What a beautiful way to start our service. Thank you to our musicians. I'm Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry, and I'm joined today by Service Associate Karen Griglak. And today we join together Colorado congregations around the state for a Labor in the Pulpit service. So yay. Yeah, power to the people. So I'm delighted to welcome again Robert Lindgren, who works for the AFL-CIO, and he also hosts the KGNU show called Labor Exchange, which airs on Mondays from 6 to 6:30. Is that accurate? Good. Today's music is provided by Tad Koryeth, our Director of Music, with Daniel Fields and Amy Austin. Thank you so much. And our tech team, who are mostly invisible unless we need something, and then they're really active, is Scott Yeomans, George Calavrusis, and Deborah Dixon-Mensch. Thank you for the three of you. As I say the welcome words today, I want to invite everyone to look around at who is with us today, and especially invite the Zoomies to switch into gallery view if you aren't already in gallery view, and then turn on your video if you're willing as well. It really is delightful for us to be able to see each other's faces. You are all welcome here today. Oh, you're doing that part. Well, we'll do that part first. Say hello to everybody near you, and then I'll say our welcome words. Now we'll do our welcome words. Great. We'll just switch orders today. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes and sizes, gifts and challenges that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways that you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, You are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living, all the places you are from, you are welcome here. With all of the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here. And no matter how long you are away, nor how soon until you return, you are welcome here. And whether you come with laughter in your heart today or with tears, we welcome you. You are invited to join us with a curious mind, a loving heart, and a willing spirit. And we welcome all of you today. In this congregation, we commit ourselves to being a center for spiritual exploration and justice-making, and to anti-racism and anti-oppression work within our own hearts, within our congregation, and in the world around us. So if you are new here, we're glad you found us, whether you're here in person today or virtually, and we hope that you can experience the warmth and the love of this congregation. Each Sunday is different here, so please come a few times to really get to know us. And we have many opportunities during the week for connecting socially and spiritually. You can check on, for Zoomies, there will be links going into the chat to help you get connected. And those in person, all of you here can stop by the welcome table to learn more about our congregation. And now we will move to the chalice lighting, since you already all greeted each other, right? If you have a chalice at home, you can light it while we're lighting the fellowship chalice. And you can also write in the chalice where your chalices are from, or just greet each other in the chalice. In the chat. Right in the chat. I'm confused because y'all started introducing each other, introducing yourselves first. Please say the words along with me as we light the chalice. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I'll sing our bowl again, inviting it to draw you deeper into the present moment and into the company of this gathered community. And following the bowl, we'll just have a few moments of silence together.
In his book, How Much Do We Deserve? An Inquiry into Distributive Justice, Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Dick Gilbert recounts this story, originally shared by Robert C. Roberts in his book, Taking the World to Heart. Roberts was visiting the 4th grade classroom of his son Daniel, where the teacher had organized a balloon stomp. Each child had a balloon tied on their leg, and the object was to obliterate everyone else's balloon without letting anything happen to yours. It was every man for himself and each against all. As soon as somebody stomped you, you were out. And the child who still had a plump, glistening balloon when everyone else's hung limp and tattered would have the winner's glory. The teacher gave the signal, and the children leapt ferociously on each other's balloons, doing their best, meanwhile, to protect themselves against the onslaught of others. All that is, except one or two who really lacked the spirit of competition. These were just dismayed by all the hullabaloo, and their balloons were predictably laid waste. In a few seconds, all balloons were burst, except for one. Then a disturbing thing happened. Another class, this time of neuroatypical children, was brought in and prepared to play the same game. Balloons were tied to their legs, and they were briefed on the rules of play. Said Roberts, "I got a sinking feeling in my midsection. I wanted to spare these kids the pressure of a competitive brawl. They only had the foggiest notion of what this was all about. And after a few minutes of confusion, the idea got across to one or two of them that the balloons were supposed to be stomped. And gradually it caught on. But as the game got underway, it was clear that these kids missed the spirit of it. They went about methodically getting their balloons stomped. One girl carefully held out her own in place so that a boy could pop it. And then he did the same for her. And when all the balloons were gone, the entire class cheered in unison. Which game would you want your children to play? Which game were you encouraged to play? Which game are you currently playing in your daily life?
For those of you who were here last week, you may remember I did a question box service where people could offer me their questions and I answered them on the spot mostly. And I got a couple of questions, one from Don Engelstad about the connection between inner depth and outer focus, which we talk about a lot here in the congregation. And another one from Rosemary Arp, who I also saw here today. There she is. Yeah. Asking me about what I would say to someone who stopped attending BVUUF because we were too political. So I hope that our time here today in the Labor in the Pulpit service is an example of what I tried to explain last week. Inner depth and outer focus need each other to be relevant in the world. With only an inner focus, we become irrelevant navel gazers. It was something that Martin Luther King, he didn't exactly use those terms, but Martin Luther King had a concern about predominantly white liberal Christian churches and their attitude towards navel gazing. And we ignore the fact that what we do, how our actions actually matter. But with only an outer focus, we fail to dig deep into our morals and our intentions and can actually cause more harm in the public realm. Outer focus, by its nature, involves politics. Because politics is really just the art of agreements we make about how we will be together as a society. When groups of people come together, they need to make agreements of how they'll be. That is the politics, the coming together and making these agreements. So let's go back and look at the lessons from that balloon stomp. How many of you would have been more likely to have been asked to play that competitive game as a child? How about the cooperative one? Anybody here? I wonder if they would have been asked to play the cooperative. Maybe not, right? There was Paul, that's great. We have one hand up, maybe a couple more. But in general, I think we are reared in this competitive, individualistic way of being in the world. It's woven into this country's story. In Democracy in America, written in 1831 by Alexis de Tocqueville, he wrote, "Individualism is a calm and considered feeling," I like that, calm and considered feeling, "which disposes each citizen to isolate himself from the masses of his fellows and withdraw into the circle of family and friends. With this little society formed to his taste, family and friends, he gladly leaves the greater society to look after itself. Excuse the gendered language, it's from 1831, where we left a lot of society to fend for itself. So individualism and community live in a dynamic tension with one another. That is, our whole lives, we live in a dance about how much of each we need. And that changes as our circumstances change as well. How many of you experience your own individualism, your independence as a sign of being capable, only to find yourself in need, as everyone does, multiple times in their lives, and attribute that need to some sort of personal or moral weakness? That is the story that is woven into this individualist narrative. It's the shadow side of the value of us feeling our own independence. And in societies, it looks like this. Former Harvard Divinity School church historian Conrad Wright, who was also a Unitarian and then Unitarian Universalist, he wrote, "Individualism was all well and good on the shores of Walden Pond, but it is not nearly as relevant in the slums of Calcutta. Individual initiatives are fine as long as there were plenty of codfish in the Grand Banks." And I had to look that up. That's a shelf off of Newfoundland that's just alive with fish. It's one of the richest fishing grounds. However, when the floating fish factories swarmed over them, overfishing diminished the stock available to all. So individualism worked great before there was scarcity. Conrad Wright claims that the last 3 centuries of Western culture are an aberration in human history. He says it's a product of a unique combination of population, natural resources, and technology that can never come again. And that the individualism that thrived during that period of growth became dysfunctional as the limits of growth came into play. The American rags to riches prosperity is available to anyone, that story. This is what he has to say about that. He said, "It's not so much that the poor little kid who got to the top by hard work, but the little rich kid who inherited a vast fortune and then attributed it to hard work." So if we think about our, 300 years ago, and also, well, I'm going to go back to that. He concludes that the value system that we have always taken for granted and have always assumed would be vindicated by history is indeed need of overhaul, because it doesn't work in our context. Now, I will add that as a mid-20th century elite class historian, Conrad Wright missed how that narrative of individualism, even back then, failed to take into account how much of that prosperity and those riches of natural resources were derived off the backs of indigenous people, slaves, and the very earth upon which we depend. So it was in and of itself a narrow story that did not take in the whole picture. So the overhaul that Conrad Wright is talking about means lifting our gaze from our narrow self-interests of family and friends and widening our circle of concern. It entails recognizing that each of our actions and choices have impact and that we need one another to survive. Not just in our small enclaves, but we need all of us to be thriving for us to actually thrive. The corrective when societies and individuals swerve towards the excesses of individualism is a return towards community, towards attention to the common good and to public life. Changing the game from stomping on your fellow citizens' balloons to sharing in the joy of the game. But of course, as I was writing that, I realized that analogy raises another question, because in both games, all of the balloons, all of the resources for the game at the end are stomped, right? So this is where our politics, the agreements we make with one another about how we'll share our resources, how we will work together, this is where that comes into play. One way the needed overhaul is framed is by the shifting of the values of equality, which assumes equal access for everyone, to those of equity, which takes into account actual differences. Perhaps you've seen this excellent illustration around, where is it coming up? Equality means everyone is treated exactly the same way, and equity means everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. I find that to be the best example I have ever seen of that. And this is where the concepts of economic or distributive justice live. Confucius said, "To centralize the wealth is to disperse the people. To distribute the wealth is to collect the people." When we have such a gap in income in this country, in this county, we are not collecting the people. We are not working for the public good. We are not taking into account the pain and suffering that we have as individuals as we experience the pain and suffering of others. So this distributive justice making can come together through people coming together in unions, as you'll hear Robert Lindgren sharing about in a few moments, and through our governments legislating for the common good. Together, Colorado, along with many of our other community partners and connections, like Boulder County NAACP, Longmont's El Comité, the ACLU of Colorado, the East Boulder Housing Opportunity Coalition, and even the Longmont UU presence, the Loop. They've all joined together with many other community groups to create the Boulder County Self-Sufficiency Coalition, asking the Boulder County Commissioners and City Council to support a scaled increase of the minimum wage from $15.70 to $25 in 2028, which is a wage that relates to the real cost of living in Boulder County in these times when the cost of living is so out of control. And I want you to note that there's groups like the Housing Group, and the East County ECHO. Is Anne Marie here? Opportunities Organization. So ECHO, as well as the NAACP, are involved, which shows you the intersectionality of these issues. When we talk about economic justice, we're talking about issues around housing. We're talking around issues around race. They're not separate. Now, the Boulder County Commissioners have moved forward with a minimum wage raise to $15.70 in all unincorporated areas to begin next year. I don't think they've quite committed to the 25 by 2028. No. But the city of Boulder this week failed to move on even the $15.70 initiative. Now, some fear of the impact on small businesses, but research in Denver indicates that small businesses didn't suffer after their historical minimum wage increase a couple of years ago. Some fear the rising costs of goods. But I want to ask you, Is it worth paying 50 cents more for your latte if it means that fewer people will be sleeping in their cars? Because that's one of the equations we can easily draw. The wealth gap we are facing in Boulder County is deplorable. It's a sign of a sick society that is way too far on in the narrative and living in the story of individualism. It's a sign of a society that has forgotten the values of the common good, forgotten that we all do better when we all do better, and that we need one another. Forgotten the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who said it really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated, and we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. May we live our lives nestled in this truth and acting on behalf of all people for all of life. Blessed be. Amen.
We're going to sing together again now. This is Step by Step, the Longest March. It's number 157 in your gray hymnals. And this song is really a cornerstone of labor movement and organized labor and organized protests. It was written compiled in like 1948 by a gentleman named Waldemar Hill, who was researching labor unions, the history of labor unions in the United States, and came across this verse in the preamble to the constitution of an early coal miners union. And it really, and then he found an old Irish tune that he liked, and he put them together, and it just happened to match up perfectly, and so that he created this song. And it's really a very succinct and clear declaration of what Lydia just mentioned, you know, the interrelatedness of the world and that truth and that fact. So why don't we stand and sing? We'll sing it through 3 times, Step by Step, the Longest March. Let's see. 157.
Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none.
One more time.
Step by step, the longest
Thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Robert Lindgren with the KGNU, the Labor Exchange. I'm also work for the Colorado AFL-CIO, and I'm a member of the Denver Newspaper Guild, Local 37074. As we celebrate this Labor Day, I'd like to highlight the deep connections Colorado has and continues to have with our laboring workers and the organizations they create. Colorado was the second state to adopt an official Labor Day holiday in 1887, just a month after Oregon. That was 135 years ago. The governor was there for the celebration, the mayors of our major cities, thousands of revelers there to honor workers and fight for a better future. And we like to think of those times and think of how far we've come, that we've addressed the top issues of the day: low wages, unsafe conditions, and child labor. Yet, we see it in our communities. We see a return to the exploitive tendencies of the past. JBS Food was found employing over 100 children as young as 13 in the dangerous meatpacking industry. And we should ask ourselves, did we eat this food prepared by the hands of children this year, here, just a short drive away? A legislator working on a bill in Colorado to ensure children had every right to fight their exploitation that every other worker had this to say: most Colorado businesses take child labor laws seriously, and this legislation will not impact them at all. Who this legislation will impact are the bad actors who are intentionally violating the law and putting children at risk of injury. It really comes down to whose side are you on, business or our children? Currently, workers are in crisis, and unlike the often cited phrase, crisis does not offer opportunity, it offers responsibility. The responsibility to use our collective power to build a better world. I want to talk to you about the minimum wage. As many of you are aware, Boulder County took the brave step to use every ounce of their power to increase the minimum wage here. The city of Boulder, given the same opportunity, has chosen delay. And I won't go on up here shouting the names of those I feel responsible for the delay and injustice that has happened. I'm sure they have their reasons. But it takes me back to 1995 and a news story I remember as a child that's always stuck with me. In 1995, Chicago had a heat wave, one of the deadliest in the city's history, and the oppressive heat choked the city. Leaders continued to hold press conferences from air-conditioned offices explaining their plotting response. I feel it in our bones that our leaders, like those in Chicago, are failing to meet the crisis we are in. A crisis only some in our community know. And I know that many of you see this crisis and feel it in your bones as well. So I asked you to keep the momentum that's been built. There's a large coalition of community members, labor unions, nonprofits, and service providers that want to see an increase in the minimum wage in Boulder. And I have to believe that our elected leaders feel this crisis too. We just need to remind them. Remind them through the kindness of this community, of our community, because an injury to one is an injury to all. Our nurses at Kaiser, SCIU 105 members, voted just this weekend by 99% to authorize a strike. That's scary. It's scary to them and it's scary to us. They don't want to strike. In my conversations with an SCIU healthcare worker, she told me a story. I asked her what was her favorite part of the job. She said it was working. She gave me a story of working with a patient who had dementia. And the patience that the husband showed with that person, and her ability to take on that responsibility for that short amount of time. And give him some time to have a break and calmly enjoy his coffee. She wants to provide this care. She needs people to provide for her and the work she does. So when you see that picket line, don't cross it. Our organizations have these wonderful documents, our Constitution and bylaws. We heard a song based on one, and I wanted to lift up one from AFSCME, the American Federation of State and County and Municipal Employees. Among so much abundance, there should be no want. And I believe that. So what can you do? You can tell your elected officials that you want to see a minimum wage passed. Because that momentum has to happen, because if we don't do it now, if we don't start the conversations now, we won't get to a place where we have, and I know it's bold, 25 to survive. I remember when we fought for 15. I was there. Even at the time, I thought that was an amazing, bold decision, but I do understand that we need that right now. So join us in community at the Louisville Labor Day Parade tomorrow. I want to let you know also that there's an Irish Miners Memorial commemorating Saturday, September 16th up in Leadville at the Evergreen Cemetery, finally marking the graves of the miners up there and various folks in the community. Deeply tied to Boulder, to our miners here in Erie and Louisville and Lafayette and in Boulder. And I want to end by imploring you to get involved when you see workers standing up in your community, to never cross a picket line, and to expect your elected leaders to push forward and build a Boulder and a Colorado where we can all thrive. Thank you all so much for the honor of speaking with you this morning. And Labor Day is about family, so, sorry, gonna give a shout. Look, all the tough labor guys were busy, so you got the softie. I'm sorry. But Labor Day is about family, so thank you to my family watching at home for your support, for my ability to be here. I wish you all a happy and healthy Labor Day. Please find me out at the parade. The Teamsters always end it with free union-made and delivered ice cream sandwiches. It's a wonderful tradition. And so finally, we will hear a video from Together Colorado, digging into the details and the importance of raising the minimum wage in Boulder. Thank you so much.
Everyone deserves to thrive, regardless of which corner of Boulder County we live in, from Longmont to Lafayette, Eldora to downtown Boulder. We deserve the freedom to earn a fair wage, to retire with dignity, and provide for our families. And all of us benefit when our neighbors, friends, teachers, and essential workers are paid the true value of their work.
City councils across Boulder County have an opportunity to join a county-wide initiative to increase the minimum wage to reflect our needs and the real cost of living. But some local elected officials are dragging their feet, giving into wealthy corporate interests and refusing to put their communities first.
We, people of faith, workers, small business owners, and community leaders are coming together to demand a minimum wage increase for all in Boulder County. Our evidence-based proposal takes into consideration factors like average family size, the local cost of living, and more.
A higher minimum wage in Boulder County means that families can live where they work and put down roots in our communities. It means stability and the knowledge that we can provide a roof over our heads, care for our families, and save for the future.
Join our campaign for a higher minimum wage. Together, we can create an economy in Boulder County that works for everyone.
Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and this community by giving half of our plate away to those organizations that share our values. This week's half plate will go to the Community UU Church in Plano, Texas. Early on the morning of Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, their building was the target of a firebomb attack. Luckily, no one was injured, and the damage to the building was contained to the front entrance area. The FBI and the local police are investigating and believe it was a hate crime, although no arrests have been made. Your donation today will go towards the repair of the building and the costs of providing better security and as a show of support to the congregation. You can learn more about the congregation at communityuuchurch.org/UUA. You can text your donation at the number on the screen, or if you're in the fellowship today, you can place a donation in the offering plate as it passes. Please give generously, as you so often do. As our musical reflection begins, we invite you to reflect upon and write into the chat, if you're on Zoom, the answer to this question: what do you do to support economic justice?
for the work of this congregation and for our sibling congregation in Texas, dealing with the aftermath of violence against their building, we dedicate our offerings. Now I invite us into our time of community connection, our time of sacred sharing. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to share a joy or a concern, please type it into the chat window, sending it to everyone, and we will read those at the end. And then I will add a stone, Karen will add a stone, and I will read them. If you're in the sanctuary today, you can come up front here to this side of the table, briefly share your joy or concern using the microphone, and add a stone to our waters. Or you're always welcome to come forward and put a stone in silence. And wherever you are, please tell us your name and where you live. And we'll put one last stone in, Karen, for all of those joys and concerns that remain in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, knowing that even in our silence, we are bound together in the web of life. Beloveds, in the midst of this world, filled with vast inequities, we gather, seeking to find our commonalities, and knowing that we are actually of one heart, each of us, with moments when we suffer and moments when we celebrate. And that our suffering is made more easy when we are able to be together, and our celebrations more joyful when we are together. We were never meant to be solitary bodies. We need one another in all the ways that we live. May we never forget that and live lives of connection, of desire for growth for ourselves and others, for healing, and also for celebrating. May it be so. Blessed be.
We have one more song that we're going to sing together. This song is a cornerstone of labor, of civil rights protests. It was originally a Christian hymn sung by both, it was popular in both white and black churches in the earliest 20th century. And it has a special place in protest movements and in singing. We were asked to be reminded, we were asked to keep the momentum going, keep the momentum of what we're fighting for, of whatever your particular political cause might be. And one of the ways that historically we're able to keep that momentum going is through song and through singing together. So I'd ask that you stand and sing this song with us. The words are going to be up on the screen. And it's one of those that really, it'll give back to you as much as you put into it. So I ask you to really commit, go on this journey with us. If you don't know the melody at the beginning, you definitely will by the end.
Goodness, what a delight. Thank you so much. I'm going to close us off with some announcements, and then we'll do our benediction. Just a few today. Just a reminder that next Sunday is our Water Sunday. So bring water that is meaningful, that embodies a meaningful part of your summer, and we will put them all together symbolically and create our sacred waters for this congregation. I also want to remind you that the School of the Spirit, while we are in here doing what we do, there is a whole other side of great activity happening. And the School of the Spirit, as they are rebooting for this year with their new Director of Children and Youth Programming, Kitty Kaler, who we just moved laterally into that position. She's fabulous, really fabulous. So we need council members, classroom volunteers, people who would love to volunteer to work in the nursery, and child care for events, paid or volunteer. So if you have any interest in that part of our congregational life, which is super fun, please see me or see Kitty. And in the Enough is Enough, putting our More Than Thoughts and Actions category, in October 14th, we'll be doing a Guns to Garden Tools event here, where people are invited to bring unwanted firearms, unloaded unwanted firearms, and they actually get cut here and then literally get turned into garden tools. And jewelry, I have some. Everybody who would like to be a part of that must register using the link that is in our Connections Weekly. And everybody here in the congregation has until September 10th to do so. So that is until next Sunday. And then what happens? Then the community is invited, thank you, to volunteer after that. And we will be starting our Inquirers series next Sunday after the water service, and that will be with the Caring Council. So if you're interested in learning about the Caring Council and the kind of work we do to weave those connections of caring and love amongst ourselves, that would be a time to come to learn about them. And now we're ready to extinguish our chalice. Please join me in saying our words together. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And I invite those of us in the room to rise in body or spirit, link arms, or give yourself a hug if you'd prefer. And we will invite... Inviting the gift of touch to remind us of our profound interconnection with one another and with all of creation. May you go forth, remembering that each and everything you do matters, and that together we can create the world we dream about. May it be so. Amen. You're upside down today.